And some of the comments, good old Intel, deny and deflect. Alright, how's it going everyone? Today we're going to go over Intel's 13th and 14th gen CPUs that are degrading. This is by consumers, this is by reviewers, this is by hardcore overclockers like myself. And just like actually hardcore overclocking, they have proved points on these higher grade CPUs that they're degrading. Some people are calling it oxidation due to a microcode that was put out, and yeah, it's not good for Intel, let's just say this. So Intel so far has tried to deflect the blame to motherboard manufacturers running CPUs on higher voltage than needed. And this came out months ago, a long time ago. So Intel came out with a statement a couple days ago claiming laptop CPUs are not affected. However, not even 2 days later, Intel has commented that the laptop CPUs of these two generations are seeing similar issues. A lot of these similar issues is due to the fact that the CPUs have P cores and E cores. When you're going into a game and going back to your Windows or going from Windows to a game, it stresses your CPU and then de-stresses your CPU. So what happens is the voltages will change. And the P cores and E cores do not use the same voltages. So what can happen is there'll be a spike or a spike. So it's a very little spike. It's a spike of a drop of not the voltage. The voltage was not high enough to begin with, or the voltage was too high to begin with, and then when it got into the load, it dropped the load too far, as in the load line calibration that's set in the BIOS, and you can set it yourself too. So when you go into a game or a high CPU stressed, like a test or something like that, you can set it so that way when you're into the game, it doesn't drop the voltages much. It's just millivolts, but it doesn't drop the voltages too much or raise the voltages too much, as in things can fluctuate. The cores fluctuate. Not every core is the same. If you set your CPU to gaming mode, more or less you would be fine on a lot of this because you didn't have to split the voltages and all that with the E-cores. The E-cores, again, are different voltages, and you can set all the voltages for every core manually if you wanted. I did do this, and some people did do this as well. I more or less did this with the 12900K, and that helped keep the temperatures quite nice, and it gave me a very nice overclock of 5.5 gigahertz, no problem. So even though it wasn't a KS, I was still getting KS performance out of it. And this is all cores, so all the cores were set for 5.5 gigahertz, and all the E cores were set to 3.8, I think. 3.7 or 3.8. I'll have to recheck onto that, but it's somewhere in that neighborhood for the E cores. So yeah, so it's affecting all CPUs that were 12th gen, 13th gen, 14th gen. A lot of people are saying it's the 13th and 14th gen i9s and that. It's not. It's all the P cores and E core CPUs are affected due to the fact the microcode was not appropriate for the P cores and E cores of each motherboard, each RAM, each CPU, like all these manufacturers, not just the motherboard, not just Intel, not just Corsair, all the RAM manufacturers and that set XMPs. They're not giving enough information to the customers saying this is an overclock if you set your XMP. This will void warranty. This can damage your CPU. This can harm things. If you are not careful, things can change and you will not notice due to the fact that you're upgrading the BIOS and that. That a lot. I'll be showing a test where I literally will put one of the BIOS on my Z690 here. I'll put the BIOS on to an older BIOS. Oh, I hope they still have it. If not, I can go back into a certain forum that should have a set BIOS or I might have a USB that has the old BIOS for the Z690 ORS Master. And if you set all of everything you want, all of your overclocks and that, and you switch to the BIOS over, even on stock, it will completely mess everything up. Like it'll change all the voltages, change all the curves for the fans that you might have set. It'll change uh, everything. It just changes everything just by upgrading the BIOS. And you have to manually set everything over. If not, when you load back up into what you would expect it to be default settings, it will not be default settings. So yeah, Intel says 13th, 14th gen mobile CPUs are crashing, but not due to the same bug as desktop chips. Um, the desktop chips are bugging for the voltage. Mobile desktop chips are done a different way. It's just completely different. So, but it's still P cores and E cores. If there's P cores and E cores, you're gonna have an issue. If you're gonna have fluctuating voltages, you're gonna have an issue. And some of the comments, good old Intel, deny and deflect. They say they have found the issue while pushing a microcode update in mid-August to solve this. Okay, a lot of people did not look over any of the BIOSes and checked over the error codes that were popping up due to the fact that people were saying it's stock. It's not stock. Nothing was stock, because all these people that were saying that the CPUs are degrading, they had some sort of Corsair or HyperX RAM that had XMP, and they most likely had XMP enabled, and they did not do any of their own voltage tuning, which means all the vid voltages from the XMP went into the motherboard, and either the motherboard can handle it or not. It will handle it due to the fact XMP is set for the motherboard and the RAM. So whatever the brand chips are made of, and the rigorous testing is made on that. The problem with the Intel is that the microcode architect is saying that they were spiking too much voltages into the vid. Yes and no. They were also pumping too much voltages into like the RAM manufacturers were pumping too much voltage into the your system agent voltage, which is like your memory to your CPU, and it's on your CPU. You're changing the voltage on your CPU so that way you can run the XMP. That will cause issues. And yeah, again, it's same thing. If a high load, low load, high temperature on the RAM with no load, a lot of weird kind of bugs happen. So they set out this microcode to actually help out a lot of things, and it did. It helped out a lot of people, but by then the CPUs were being pumped full of like 1.48, 1.5. Some of my tests way back were saying, and this is software voltage, so I'll have to redo it with like an actual voltage reader, like an actual hardware voltage reader, to see if the voltage was actually reading what I was seeing, 1.678. It was saying 1.678, 1.7 volts, where it should only have been 1.4 max. And if it ran for a long period of time at that voltage, doesn't matter if the CPU was at a decent temperature, if it wasn't below 10 degrees, it was probably going to do a lot of damage to it, or damage to the trace as that trace get very hot. Intel might have slightly higher performance comparison to AMD. To my knowledge, Intel are better in single core performance, not in multi-threaded performance. Yes and no on that one. It depends. There's a lot of depends. AMD has great coding for their RAM, and that, like their Infinity Fabric is great. Just needs to be upgraded to not like a Ryzen 2 or Zen 2, whatever. It's old. It's old architecture. It needs to be redone so that the Infinity Fabric can reach farther. Yeah, well, oxidation issue has been confirmed by Intel in a post of one of the employees made on Reddit. No mention of this oxidation issue on the main post on their community forum. They seem to have spread the info over multiple channels as much as possible. They may have known about this issue since 2020. They did. They said a BIOS update last year to fix two error codes that were happening, and that is due to a micro code that was in place by Intel, not by motherboard manufacturers, not by RAM manufacturers, but by Intel. So they implemented this, and now people are saying that their CPU has been completely affected from that. But people probably had an XMP which put voltages in place that was not good. The motherboard manufacturers with these RAMs was putting too much voltages in, and it's been fixed again with another BIOS update. If you look into it, doesn't matter if it's a Gigabyte motherboard, a Asus motherboard, it does not matter. If you check out their last BIOS update, not this one that came out that they probably set out for in place for fixing this last issue, but for actual other issues that was happened for the other BIOS update. If you check, there would be an error code fix for that. I don't know. Let's check it out. Let me know in the comment section below if one of your motherboard manufacturers had this BIOS update. If the BIOS update was Intel's microcode erroring or anything else. Let me know in the comment section below if it was an Intel's fault or if it was an error code due to the fact that the motherboard manufacturer and or RAM was putting in too much voltages where it should not have been. And you can check by just searching up the error code on like either a forum or on the actual motherboard's manufacturer page. You can just search up that error code, or you can probably just Google the error code and it'll probably tell you a little bit about it. If it tells you that it's a motherboard thing, it's probably due to the fact of the motherboard. If it says it's an Intel implemented error code fix, then it was an Intel problem. It will tell you with this. It'll tell you with the codes to search it up. Again, let me know in the comment section below if your CPU was affected. Failure is confirmed. Yeah, GN's gone over this a few times now. The first time failure is confirmed on Intel, and he went over it, and yeah, it was Intel's fault. He also went over that it was, again, motherboard and RAM manufacturers as well, so he couldn't confirm a whole bunch of things. That's when he came out with Intel oxidation, clocks, voltages, ETB, DDR speed, aging. Yeah, that's, again, not all just Intel. He will go over that if you actually go over his videos. It's not all just Intel's fault here. AMD got delayed. AMD's 9000 got delayed. And what happened here is it was their actual name. So the AMD Ryzen, their Ryzen 9700 should have been a Ryzen 7. It was saying it was a Ryzen 9. Is that really the truth? I don't believe so. I believe they had some sort of issues with like an actual defect, kind of like Intel's, and they don't want to set out their CPU like they did last time where they put it in a motherboard and it blew up their CPU and motherboard due to the fact there's too much voltage going into one single spot. Yeah, that was an AMD thing, not Intel. And this came out on their last gen. So remember, people, it's not just Intel. A AMD covered up their problems. They're blowing up CPUs uh, when they came out, and now they had a delay. What's the delay? We'll find out next time. Well, we'll find out if it's actually true. We'll find out if it's true, if it's just the etching on the IHS or not. Yeah, holy. Intel's going down a bit, 21.48, so it's gone down quite a bit. Quite a bit. Even though Intel's still up around 80% of the market, I believe. Let's see, how much market does Intel have? Alright, so it has gone down a bit. So, discounted semi-custom, embedded, and LOT companies, headline numbers are the Intel accounted for 80%, so 79.2% of the x86 CPU market during Q1. So that's the quarterly one, which would be from January till April. Down from the 82.8% it was last year. Not just last year, it was at 82% for it was at 82%. I think I checked this 3 months ago. It was up there, and now it's gone down to 79.2%. That's a quick decline for a big company like Intel. AMD's market share jumped to 20.8% of all their x86 chips shipped versus their 17.2% a year ago. And again, I checked this about 3 months ago or so, and yeah, it was at 17%, well, 16-ish. But yeah, they've went up due to the fact Intel had this problem. And we'll see with Intel's new CPUs if this changes. It probably will change quite a bit. And Intel still has to send out their new CPUs as well. So we'll see about that. Let me know in the comment section below if any of your CPUs were affected. If you think Intel's going to hold the market, or if AMD is actually going to go up. AMD stocks may be worth a lot more than Intel's, but again, the percentage market, so what's sold and what's not sold is values on that. I don't know if they can really hold it against AMD either way, to be honest. We will have to see, though. Yeah, Winnie Ace, you're right on that. We gotta wait. Give it 2 months, maybe 3 months. Intel's gonna pump out their CPU. AMD's gonna already have their CPUs out. We'll see if people keep their AMDs or if people go back to Intel. If people stick with Intel, I'm gonna probably stick with Intel unless some miracle AMD CPUs and GPUs prices go to a very nice spot and they just absolutely crush Intel. I just don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. Intel's just been top lead for ever. So I just don't think it's gonna change. Yeah, Intel Bloodblast is a crazy. Yeah, sadly it's true, and it is absolutely sucks, but realistically this is the only way to fail, or fall down. Sure, the employees are the ones to hurt first, but they don't appear to be the ones only in this case. So now, us consumers, we bought all of this. It's not just the Intel's, us consumers. If we're just going to switch over to AMD, all these Intel employees are going to go down, and we've already gone down. If this is true, if all of this has been true, we have lost a lot of money. As in, these CPUs that I've had for 10 years and are literally 20 years old are still kicking around and have been overclocked crazy amount, and they still use the same voltages, they still run the same, they still perform the same, and they throw out these CPUs and all of a sudden, boom, no good. It's no good. Intel, come on, man. Let's do it. Fix yourself. At least do some sort of recall. Do some sort of your next generation. Make it dirt cheap for their great good CPUs, and make sure that you keep your Intel fans. Because if you lose your Intel fans, you could be losing a lot of market, a huge amount of market. Hoping that Intel will fulfill all RMA requests for messed up CPUs. Just ain't gonna happen. They'll lose too much. They'll lose so much money that they'll just go bankrupt, and they just can't. This is extreme. This is extremely hopeful. I legitimately think this is a settling class action lawsuit will be cheaper for Intel than RMA every single CPU, and that's what's happening. There is a class action lawsuit that has been implemented against Intel, and it probably will be cheaper, a lot cheaper than replacing the CPUs that were affected. And that sucks. That sucks for everyone. Yeah. They did extend the warranty for all 13, 14 gen CPU, so it looks like they're going to be honoring RMAs at least for the foreseeable future. Yeah, it's only just for the box CPU, so if you didn't, if you have like a mobile one, that's not gonna, and that's fine. It really wasn't affecting the mobile ones as much, just due to the voltages was crazy weird. Yeah, that's crazy, everyone. All right, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about this. It's been pretty crazy the past month for Intel. Hopefully they smarten up. Hopefully they actually value their customers and actually will stick with their RMA. Uh, Let me know in the comment section below if anything got affected for you. What you think of this situation. If you're an Intel fan and you're switching to AMD, let me know. If you're an AMD fan sticking with AMD, let me know. If you got their new CPU and it doesn't perform the way they said, let me know in the comment section below. Again, as always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to get her done.